Okay, I'm going to go through this next question, which was also from 2024. It's basically a sports day question. And the very start of the question is up here, 2A. The algorithm part is down here, which we'll get to in a minute, but to start off with, it just gives you the scenario, and you should read through that scenario carefully. You often have more than enough time in computing tests, exams, so take your time, read the question. It's basically saying that students take part in different events, they get points for their result, and they're added to the team score at the end. We've then got a question about data types. It is asking you to identify data types for these variables, and it gives you the example data. That is a string, that is an integer, a whole number, and that is a real or a float number because it's a decimal. Moving down, this algorithm question is asking you to fill in the gaps to write a linear search. A linear search is when it looks through each item within an array or a list, which is what you've got here, like a table, if you imagine a kind of table. Look through each one at a time, checking to see if the contents of that item equal the thing that you're searching for. So you've got to imagine that you're searching for a student's name to find out if they're in this list, if they're in the team. So it says the student names for a team are stored in an array with the identifier the team. An identifier is just the name. It's just the name of the array. An example of the data in this array is shown below. So there you've got the example. Arrays have index numbers which indicate where that item is in the array, and they start at 0. Use 0 indexing. So you've got Ali, Eve, Ling, Nina, Sarah, Tom, and then at positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so further down it says a linear search function is used to find whether a student is in the team. The function takes a student name as a parameter. So we've already got that there. Look. Returns true if the student is in the array. We have not got that anywhere. But we've got return false if the student name is not in the array. Yes, down here we've got return false. That makes me immediately think that that is going to be true there, because we've got false there, so this one must be return true. We could fill that in. We've got ourselves a mark. Now, the tricky bit is these ones, this section here. We've got to loop for all of the items in the list. To do that, you use a for loop. So a for loop is called a count controlled loop. It will loop for an exact number of times. So for count equals 0. That count is just what it's called a loop variable. It keeps track of which loop you're on, so it starts at 0. And this needs to be when we want it to stop, when we want the loop to stop. Now what I would put there is probably the length of data, and with Python, if you put length of data, you have to -1 off the end to make it take into consideration that it's 0 indexed, because what it does with the length of data, the data being this section, is it will just count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We want it to go from 0 to 5 though, so that it takes into consideration all of these items of data. So what I'm going to put in there, I'm just going to put in a text box. I'm just going to put length of, now what's the name of the list? The team. -1. That would work. If the team something in square brackets is equal to then something else, but this is where we want to check each item within the array and check to see if it's equal to student name. So I know that that part there is definitely student name, so I'm going to fill that out. Student name. Okay. Oh, can I just delete these dots? Yeah, that's better. I'm just going to highlight that in red so that it's easy to see that that's what I've added. Now this bit here, you actually want it to use the count variable to give an index position to check in the array. So what you would do is you'd put count. What that does is it starts at 0 for the first iteration, and then for the second iteration it will move up to a 1, which is exactly what we want it to do, because we want it to check Ali, then check Eve, then check Ling. So count will start at 0 and it will go up by 1 each time. And then we think that this is true. I'm going to highlight that in red and highlight that in red. And then if we look at the mark scheme, hold on. The mark scheme is here. So there's my data types, and here you have got the team.length. That's OCR pseudocode. You'd be fine with writing len open brackets the team. It's up to you. And then count, and then student name, and then true, and I think that's what we've got. So yeah. I'm just going to take that, put that into ChatGPT. Convert to VB6. You don't get any marks for this. Declaring variable types, the data type. So let's just imagine it was linear search student name, which is what the exam board gave you. So for count equals 0 to, that should be the length of the team. And then you've got count there, which is exactly what we put, student name, which is exactly the same there, slightly different here. So it's a bit different there with that one. But if you want to, you can write in VB.